Spring ball is getting underway for Utah football in a week and a half, and we're talking about what we're most excited with Utah football coming back this spring on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcasts. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you in the YouTube comments, and you can follow our show at Locked On Utes on X. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be? When your next adventure could be around the corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by Alex Napoles, a producer for KSL Sports, who's produced Utah football post-game shows as well as pregame shows too. Alex, really appreciate you coming on here. And, I know you're a Utah fan too. So talking about just what this Utah team, is so great to have football back. We're so close to it being back. And what we're going to kind of do is go back and forth and talk about just drafting the different things that we are most excited about with having Utah football back. I'm the host. It's my show. So I decided I'm going to give myself the first pick just to be extra nice to myself on this Sunday night. So with the first pick, I am going to go with Cam Rising being back on the practice field. Now, I will say this is not something that I've heard like, oh yeah, Cam is like, I've heard it written in stone. Cam's going to be out there throwing the ball day one of practice. Like, I have not heard that, but I will also say this. I literally remember going to the UCLA game in like September and Cam was in pads running around out there. Like, I would be shocked if Cam is not throwing the ball around day one. Yes, Cam's probably not going to take as many live, not even live. He won't take any live, but like even a lot of the practice reps, they'll give to a Brandon Rose or someone else who's going to pop up on my list a little bit. We're drafting what we're most excited about, but just seeing Cam Rising back on the field, the energy, just the aura he brings to this Utah football team with his presence, the confidence. Utah won back-to-back Pac-12 championships with him at the starter. It's going to be so great to see him out there, and that's what I'm most excited about, Alex, was having spring ball back.
Yeah, and I think, not having Cam this season kind of showed a little bit on the field at times. There was definitely times where the offense was struggling to even string together a long enough drive to try to get some points on the board. But give credit where credit's due. The offense did well enough without Cam. And so I'm right there with you. Cam Rising coming back next season is going to be huge, and it's going to be very exciting to see next season.
It is going to be exciting. So that was my first pick on what I'm most looking forward to about spring ball, just seeing the clips and hearing different things from practices. I'm ready for that. But for you, what are you most looking forward to about spring ball?
I think for spring ball, I'm going to throw in for my number one pick, Karene Reed. I was incredibly impressed with Karene last season. I think between him and Lander Barton, they're going to be obviously the leaders of that defense. When it comes to football, I love defenses. I love strong defense. I love good defense. And that's why I think I'm such a big fan of the Utah Utes. And so Karene Reed is number one on my list for next season.
It's so much fun to watch him play and watch him get after it. And he's a guy, when it comes to just helping everyone out, elevating all the guys around him. And I even had on my list as well, just, seeing Lander back out on the field. You touched on him a little bit. So I'll I think he's going to have a monster season. I thought he would last year. It felt like we're getting close to that right as he got injured. The USC game was maybe his best game, and then he gets ruled out for the season. So hate that happened to him in that time and that it did, but excited to see him back out there for this Utah team as well. For my second pick, I know I just did one guy returning from injury, but I could have also done a second. I'm really excited to see Brant Kuithe and Cam Rising back out there together. Cam is the number one because of all the things he does. The ball is in Cam's hands every single play, unless Utah's going to go crazy with the Wildcat. But Brant Kuithe should be the best tight end in college football this coming season. I mean, maybe there'll be one or two guys better, but you all know what I mean. One of the best in college football. He is just a sensational pass catcher. when you look at the athleticism and all the things he displayed. And yes, he had the massive injury, but I do believe that he should be ready to go by the time spring ball is rolling around out there too. So just the opportunity to see and just read the clips about how, it was a third and whatever long situation that Utah let the football teams letting the media watch, and Cam connected to Brant Keithy. That just gets me excited about what's to come in this fall, because I think that's a connection we're going to be routinely saying once again is Cam Rising to Brant Keithy for a big chunk of yardage.
And I mean, just go back and look at the highlights from the Florida game at Florida.
Oh.
That is all you need to know about Cam Rising and Brant Keithy hooking up together. Yes. To be able to see that back on the field, to have the opportunity to see that back on the field next season, I think is going to be huge for Utah. Those two together will probably be amongst the top 5 duos in the Big 12 for sure.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree with you there, and I'm excited to see those guys, especially from just a pass catcher to quarterback area. I mean, they could very well be a top 3 unit as well. We'll see what the rest of the Big 12 ends up bringing back, but I expect them to have a prolific year together. Where are you going for your second pick, Alex?
For my second pick, I'm going to go with a young gun. You might recognize the name in Isaiah Garcia, the Corner Canyon offensive lineman. He is, without a doubt, the top lineman coming out of the state of Utah, and for him to commit to to Utah football and have the opportunity to play for his home team, I love that. I love the talent and the pipeline that Utah football is producing, and to see Isaiah Garcia head up to the U and help an O-line that I think at times really struggled this past season. I think he's just going to make that O-line a lot better, and between him and Fano, the two, Fano, who just came in last season, and then now you're going to have adding Isaiah Garcia to that O-line. It's just going to reinforce it, and I'm very excited to see what he brings to the offensive line next season.
You think so? Fano was a surprise to start last season as well. That was one that did catch me off guard. I was someone that thought Falcon Kalmatule was going to beat him out. Do you think we'll see Garcia in the starting lineup next year?
I think he has the potential. I think so. I think he has the potential to be amongst one of the top offensive linemen in the Big 12, just from what we've been able to see from him at the high school level. Really hope that translates to obviously the college level. He has a really, really high ceiling. And I hope that he can beat out some people and win a good position on that O-line in his first season, not only for the experience, but just to bring a little bit of what Isaiah Garcia brings to offensive lines.
I mean, I thought from a strength standpoint, when you're talking about Garcia, I think he is more ready from that standpoint than I thought Fano was coming into Utah. So that's where I do like his odds definitely from that standpoint. If you just had to tell me when they came to Utah, who do I think was more ready to play at the time, I would have said Garcia probably, but that's a huge credit to Fano. Bro, he bought in, worked hard, got stronger. I mean, he made a physical transformation from the last time I saw him in November when he had to play defensive end back in the 2022 state championship game that was to when we saw him in the spring of 23. So I think Garcia is a guy who's more than capable of making that same type of transition as well. And I think that he could have a monster year for Utah too. I think he could be a guy who does, and by a monster year, I mean just starting as a true freshman, which is such an incredible feat that I highlighted several times last year, even though I was said hey, Fano, could have done better here, could have done better there. It's still man, this guy is starting as a freshman, going to be an absolute monster. And, Fano's another guy we could talk about for all the great things he's going to do. I love that you mentioned Garcia. And I also very much appreciate that you led the little show rundown I have to the right, because I have another guy who's coming to Utah, who's coming to Corner Canyon, going to be playing for Utah up on the hill in Salt Lake City, that I want to talk about how excited I am to see him wearing that U helmet in one moment. But first, I want to talk to all of you about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes, our great friends at Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drivers and great escapes. Their class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are all built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen system. And the 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. Also, the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder is a great option too. It has room up to 8 and extensive cargo capacity and advanced availability, 4x4 capability. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there for you. So take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Also want to talk to you all about another sponsor of our friends at Locked On Utes. It's UCCU. Here's some exciting news. UCCU has just elevated their checking accounts by enhancing them with more benefits, more savings, and more online protections than ever before. A lot more, paired with the most advanced and comprehensive mobile banking tools. Elevated checking is a must-have financial product packed with lifestyle, security, and financial benefits. The lifestyle benefits alone include cell phone protection, roadside assistance, telehealth with 24/7 access to licensed health professionals with zero copay and exclusive savings on travel, shopping, and dining. An elevated checking is free when you do any one of the following: use your debit or credit card 15 times or more a month, or make a monthly direct deposit of $500 or more to maintain an average daily balance of $1,500. Otherwise, UCCU elevated checking is only $6 a month. You can visit uccu.com to open an elevated checking account online or stop by any branch to open an account. UCCU, love where you bank. Alex, continuing with our draft, I love that you highlighted Garcia going with one of the guys in the trenches, which, you know, I'm a huge fan of from our days of working together on KSL Sports Rewind too. But I am going to have to go with a little bit of the flash here and talk about quarterback, and not just because the last name is Wilson, but I think Isaac Wilson has a chance to be very special, and I'm really excited for us to get his first look at him officially in that Utah helmet, running around there, making plays, making throws, doing all the things that he's going to do. Like, this could be the first time we see it will be the first time we see Wilson, but like, what could be a legendary Utah career? I think that's the potential that Wilson has. I'm not saying like, hey, it's a slam dunk that he's going to be one of the 5 best quarterbacks to ever come through Utah. All I'm saying is he has the potential, and we could see that on display in spring ball with some of the wow throws and plays he's making early on. We even saw a freshman last year and a guy like a Mikey Matthews, right, who really turned heads in spring ball. Now he's not on the team anymore. He went to Cal, but this could be where Wilson has that type of a spring too. And I'm really excited to see him get to work with Andy Ludwig coming up here in about a week and a half.
And obviously the landscape of college football has changed a little bit, but pre-portal transfer, you're in a situation like this, you're already looking at Isaac Wilson to kind of take the reins next season from Cam Rising, or in 2 years to take those reins from Cam Rising and kind of be the next Cam Rising. Yeah. And you just want to have that pipeline coming through to make sure that you're ready for the next guy to come up, for the next opportunity. And I think Isaac Wilson he's the type of guy who's going to take that opportunity to make the best of it. No doubt about it. And so, like you, I am very excited to see Isaac Wilson, because we talk about Garcia having a high ceiling. I think Wilson's ceiling is a little bit even higher than Garcia's.
You got to cover the high school football in the state of Utah with KSL Sports Rewind like you did, just like seeing all the hype and everything around Wilson as well. I mean, how confident are you in his ability to translate the special things he did in high school to the collegiate level?
Extremely confident. I've had the opportunity to follow him, like you mentioned, through KSL Rewinds, and he just seems like an extremely smart quarterback. He seems like he reads the field very well. He knows where to make the right throws, when the right throws are going to be, and I think that's what's made him very successful. It's just he's a very intelligent kid, and it's going to be awesome to see him have that opportunity to translate that to the college level.
It is going to be fantastic to watch and see how it plays out for Wilson. But I'm curious, Alex, where are you going with your third pick in our 2024 Spring Ball Excitement Draft?
For my third pick of the Spring Ball Draft, I am going with special teams. I'm
okay,
as a former kicker.
There. That wasn't on my board. There you go.
As a former kicker, I thought Cole Becker, looked fantastic last season. It sucked that he got a little bit injured, but I think special teams is something that Utah's been lacking over the course of the last couple of years, since maybe Matt Gay and Wisnowski departed for the NFL. A lot better this season. Cole Becker seems to be that reliable guy, and so as long as he can stay healthy through spring ball and continue working, I think Utah's special teams is going to be a worry of the past.
First of all, I'm supposed to have Moose Bingham on tomorrow's show, and he's going to be very excited when I tell him that you chose special teams in this
There you
draft.
go.
I like you said, just seeing those guys, especially in spring ball, where obviously the hitting will be a little different. These guys are still going to get after it, especially the young guys. But like you're going to get opportunities to see. Like I remember getting the first look at Becker last year and some of the long field goals. He's going to be put in those difficult situations, and it was fun to watch him step up. See Bo Meester with his booming leg, some of the fun things we saw there too. So I am curious to see the continued acceleration of the Utah special teams overall. For my fourth pick, I'm going to go kind of general a little bit, but it's just something I'm really excited to watch play out. And we'll dive more into this on a future episode of Locked On Utes, but the position battles, whether you're talking about the offensive line, we already mentioned Garcia a little bit, but you're replacing Keaton Bills and Satao Laumea. Those are huge losses. And I've said before on this show, do I think Satao Laumea, Michael Mokafisi, and Coley are going to be starters? I believe that, but I don't believe that they're playing in the fall. I didn't watch that and go, oh yeah, give them the job. Like it's theirs. They don't even have to compete for it. No. They should still have to go out there and earn it, I thought, based on their play. So I'm excited to see that. And the other thing too is, look, Utah lost JT Broughton and Miles Battle. And we also know like Teo Johnson may be getting converted to a safety. So like, what's the defensive back room look like? We know Zamiah Vaughn is obviously the number one corner. Smith Snowden, CJ Blocker, Calhoun coming over from Michigan. You get other guys like Johnson coming over from Georgia Tech. I'm really excited to watch some of the position battles fight out amongst these Utah guys and see who kind of rises up and surprises us and is spring ball's breakout player. Last year, that was Brandon Rose in a lot of ways as well. I mentioned Matthews and some of the things he was able to do, and Rose had the injury, so he wasn't even able to carry all of that through going into fall camp. But it's always a new guy. I remember 2 years ago, Devon Vele was the one who really broke out in spring ball, and we saw the monster year that he was able to have. So I'm excited to watch these position battles play out and see the stars that emerge and the potential guys who are the front runners for starting jobs come fall camp.
And I love that you mentioned Devon Vele, and a lot of those, especially the position battle at the wide receiver position, intrigues me the most because you lose Devon Vele, you lose Mikey Matthews, who I thought was going to be a incredibly phenomenal player for Utah for years to come. Unfortunately, that's not the case. He obviously transferred, but there's a lot of question mark for me at who's going to step up and be receiver number one, who's going to use spring ball as their stepping stone to say, hey, I'm here, I've arrived, and I am WR number one. So that position battle to me is the one I have the biggest question mark on, and the one I'm most excited to see about.
It's going to be a great one to watch it play out. And that actually goes into what was going to be my pick. I was going to jump the gun, Alex. I didn't let you go for the fourth time, so I want to let you do that. Then I'll tell you about what my final pick will be. But what's yours, Alex, for number 4?
For my next pick, I think it just has to be a little bit of along the lines of what you're talking about right now, but youth development. I think the coaching staff, I think this coaching staff does a very fantastic job of saying, hey, you came to our program as a wide receiver, but we think you're a little bit better suited to be this position. Or, hey, you're a linebacker, you might be a little bit better on the D line. So just being able to take that youth and really develop them and reach their potential. You mentioned like a Smith Snowden, you mentioned all these young guys. It just being able to find the best place for them on the field and use that to their strengths to help them reach their potential. I think spring ball is a huge opportunity to see that, and I'm excited to see that come spring.
Make a great point. We get so enamored with the known commodities. Last year, we saw a guy in Keanu Tanuvasa who, at least for me, I was looking at Smote Pepa and Vaimahi and all these other guys and even a Fotu. And then all of a sudden it's like, nope, Tanuvasa is going to be the starter next to Junior Chifuna. And you're like, whoa, I just didn't see that coming. But those are the stories that get forgotten about because we're all obsessed with the returners as well as the new recruits coming into Utah. And speaking of new, that's where I'm going with my final pick in this draft. I'm going to go with the new transfer additions that are coming up to Utah. I touched on Johnson a little bit, but how about Anthony Woods coming off the season he had at Idaho? What's he going to look like? Dorian Singer may be the number one guy of that category I'm most excited about. Had 1,000-yard season at Arizona. Things didn't always work out perfectly at USC, but still a guy with just tremendous talent to me. Carson Ryan, giving Utah the loaded tight end room they have, bringing in Gilman, the safety coming in from Stanford. There's just so much veteran experience that Utah is bringing in through the transfer portal, as well as the Tayshawn Lyons, as well, the receiver there. Or if you're looking at another guy too that they're bringing in from the younger ranks too, like a guy in Calhoun I mentioned for the defensive back battle that we're going to witness play out in that room as well. The transfer portal is a huge part of college football. Utah embraced it, and they got a lot of guys who have a chance to be starters and impact players. They will straight up be impact players for them right away.
And I think Utah's transfer class is a little bit underrated in the eyes of other flashier transfers that came into to other schools.
Yeah.
I think not a lot of people are noticing the talent that Utah brought in. Utah brought in a lot of like underrated, sneaky talent that's really gonna sneak up on you if you let them. And so use spring ball to incorporate and integrate those transfers into your team, into your culture, have them buy into what Utah football is all about. And I have no doubt they're going to be fantastic next season.
I agree. I think they'll be fantastic too, and it's going to be fun to watch those guys for the first time for spring ball. Alex, you got the final pick of our spring ball excitement draft. Where are you going with it?
For my final pick of the spring ball excitement draft is I'm very excited to see how Utah handles the pressure of going to the Big 12. There's already a lot of talk. There's already a lot of looks at saying, oh, Utah is going to be either a top 1 or a top 2 team in the Big 12. And so I'm very excited to see how the players and how the team handles that I guess that pressure of going to a new conference and making sure that they stick. Like I said, culture has been huge for Utah, and just making sure they stick to that culture and take what they've already built to the Big 12 and just kind of see how they handle with that pressure of heading over to that new conference.
A lot of pressure. We know Kyle Whittingham and the players are going to get asked about it a bunch. I'm curious to see how they're going to answer it, and we're going to get those answers in just a week and a half too. There's a lot of other things we could have mentioned when it relates to spring ball too, so it's going to be fun to watch it play out coming up here in very short time span. And also, we're going to talk about the Utah men's basketball team in 1 second now, because they just had a monster week racking up a couple of W's. But before we dive into their recent success, I want to talk to all of you about our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, and exclusive props, plus so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And speaking of the NBA, so many great games you can get in on. Well, whether it's the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic, they're beginning to ramp it up, or how about a team like the Dallas Mavericks, Luka and Kyrie, what they're cooking up, whether you want to bet on individual performances, big nights, or just see how a team is going to do. If you think this team's going to win, I mean, you think the Pistons and Wizards are going to find some ways to win games down the stretch? Probably not something I would bet on, but if you got an inkling for it, you can head over and capitalize on it on FanDuel Sportsbook. Speaking of basketball, Alex, let's talk about the running Utes, because, man, it's been great to see them take care of business. They had a couple of struggles that had them on the bubble, as I was able to talk about with my dad, a member of the selection committee. If you guys haven't checked out that show yet and you're curious about the process, would highly encourage you guys to do so. But as it talks about this Utah team recently, we touched on a little bit last week with my dad, but, getting the win over Stanford, 90-68, that was one where it was awesome to see Badgema really get going. Like, this was the Cole Badgema game to me. 5 of 6 from 3, 21 points for him. Also, how great to have Lawson Lovering back and firing on all cylinders. 17 points, a perfect 6 for 6 from the field. Then you look at what Utah did against Cal recently too. That's a game where Utah just dismantled the Bears. I mean, it was 88-59. They took care of the Golden Bears. I'm sorry, I didn't give them the Bear distinction correctly. So the Golden Bears, they dismantled them in that outing. You saw Carlson put up a 30 burger, which we love to have. Smith and Madsen each over 15 points, something you love to see. Utah scored over 40 in both the first and second half. And this is a team that looks like now it's like, okay, this is what I expected you guys to look like, and get some of these other bad losses too. I want to see Utah continue to keep it up, but if they keep playing like they looked like in these last 2 games, Alex, no reason they shouldn't be an NCAA tournament team to me.
Absolutely not. And those 2 wins against Stanford and then the win against Cal were huge for their bid to want to head to that NCAA tournament. And you just have 2 games left to wrap up the season at Oregon State and at Oregon. A lot easier said than done, especially when the road has not been kind to the Utah Utes basketball team this season. And so, like you mentioned, it's about consistency. It's about keeping up those performances from Carlson, from a Smith, and just translating that into the next game, building on those performances, and having a little bit of consistency, because I think since conference play started, I think that's where Utah struggled the most, is just keeping those consistent performances going. And like I said, the road has not been kind to this team.
No, it's not, and it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate the rest of this season. But as we look to next season for the Utah basketball program, that's why I'm excited to have you on, Alex, as you're very plugged into the high school game out in Utah, and I understand you are high on the future of the Utah basketball program because of some of the guys they'll be bringing in.
They have a lot of interesting recruits. I'm very excited to see. I'm a big fan of Craig Smith, and I think Craig Smith also he does a fantastic job. I think especially he does a good job of developing the youth and the young talent. And so having some of the top recruits from Utah high school basketball head over to the U, I'm excited to see what they're able to do with Craig Smith.
Yep, got a great opportunity. Guys like Jackson Johnson just lost in the state championship game, but that he just won the 1 year before. I'm sure he's already obviously chilling with the one, but still would like to get a second. But either way, we know he's a guy who's going to have some great success potentially too, and it's going to be interesting to see where the basketball program goes. But Alex, people want to follow more of your stuff. Tell them about all the things you got going on.
Yeah, so if you guys want to give me a follow, you can find me on X at Napoles Alex, on Instagram at Napoles Alex. Between KSL Sports, between RSL, I'm all over the place. I cover soccer. Between Rewind, I cover soccer, basketball, and football here locally in the state of Utah. So you can give me a follow there, and go support.
You are ever, Alex. That's why we appreciate you taking some time to join us on this one. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, JT. Thanks for your time, man.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. We'll be back with you tomorrow as Moose Bingham will be joining me talking more things Utah football as we prepare for spring ball. We'll see you then.